So kind of at the other end of the spectrum, what if you're one person maintaining a whole bunch of OTs for different clients? So, so introduction, yeah, we'll go skip through this part. So I guess most folks don't know me. I've been around DITA for a long time as a former ABRAMer. There's a lot of us in that group now these days. I've been a member with the DITA Technical TC for a number of years as well. I'm also the guy that, hopefully not too many groans, that developed the XSD implementation for DITA a long time ago. Not used very much these days. Also was doing a whole bunch of Eclipse help stuff for IDM during the day. So part of it is what we have, our open, what we call our output generator. It's the one that essentially is our build infrastructure. Gathers in a bunch of requests from different input environments. So like the web, the desktop, what we have scheduler. It gathers a whole bunch of information on disk, and then it launches essentially the output generator builds. And the way we've architected things, it makes it easy for us to host a whole bunch of different open toolkits for various publications. So Java-based part is generally just the extraction of content on disk. The Ant-based part is kind of the setting up in the environment to be able to launch the open toolkit. We do so all via shell scripts, mainly because we need to support a whole bunch of different versions of the open toolkit, right? So, and clients might have, for web help, the latest version, so that needs 3x. They may still have PDF that still uses 2x. Some people still use Chum that uses 1x, right? So there's a lot of different environments where things can happen. And I guess as part of our overall architecture as well, because it's Ant-based, we can do a whole bunch of pre-processing, massaging content ahead of time to get around, in certain cases, bugs in the open toolkit. One of them being the chunk one. So if you put the chunk attribute on the root element and there's another chunk attribute in a submap somewhere, it just goes kaboom. So we kind of clear everything out and then basically add the chunk and keep going. So of our clients, here's kind of the distribution of usage of open toolkits, right? So we still have people using 154, a whole bunch of them kind of using 185. 254 is kind of out of the box our main one, though we will be migrating over to 374. And I guess the big thing to note for this graph is the folks on the 1x side of things are companies that basically no longer have in-house developers to help maintain their plugins. It's very much, if it's not broken, don't fix it, don't touch it. You move to the next one until something happens, and it goes from there. So in our deployment, so the big one, we use AWS Linux background, so as our hosting environment. So that presents a whole bunch of challenges in terms of, even within our company, development is generally done on a Windows side, but we need to deploy on the Linux side. And then that introduces a whole bunch of different issues. For most of our clients that are going to SaaS, we're pretty much bring your own toolkit. So if you have a toolkit that works, everything runs fine, just hand it over to us, we'll integrate it, we'll make the connections to make sure that it works. So the integration part, so there is kind of a minimal process that we end up doing internally to basically connect the dots from our system to the OT. But seeing Guillaume's presentation about kind of like the configuration of the OTs, that looked really nice. So some ideas there to kind of take back home. And again, kind of going back to that slide about the different versions, we have clients that are on the latest and greatest spectrum of things. They do their own development, and they do a whole bunch of updates. So instead of having us kind of be the bridge between, or the the barrier for getting updates. We provide them with a development environment where they can go in, kind of do their updates, test. And the big one as well with that environment is that it mimics what our background environment is. Because a lot of times it would happen, and we hear this all the time, you come in from a Windows environment, it works on my Windows side, why is it not working on your side? So that's where, with this development environment, it kind of helps mitigate some of those issues. So then for going from development to test, that is all kind of self-serve. There's a bunch of scripts on the system that can say, okay, I'm at this point, I want to commit, I want to push this to test, I want to create a tag so that you're basically ready for our support team to be able to deploy those on the staging environment or a production environment. Yep. So common issues. Main one being the integration between Linux and Windows. There's a bug in the OT that got fixed in 3.7.1 that basically the slashes were in the wrong side. So then your plugins wouldn't, the process would die right off the bat saying, I can't find the catalog. And it was just because the slash was in. So in that instance, every time a client does an update, we need to go in the background and basically run the integrator for them. So with 3.7.1, that kind of eliminates a whole bunch of stuff that we don't need to do anymore. The other big issue is fonts. On Windows, all the PDF processors do a great job about finding the fonts. Kind of finding fallback fonts is the big one. Because a lot of times they'll have one font set up as their root one, and when it goes to the Linux side, because we don't install any base fonts, it's bring your own fonts too. So a lot of times we'll say, send us your font folder from Windows. We'll check it in the back so that they're all available. But even then, it's kind of going like, oh, I can't find this font. Because a lot of people don't realize that basically the font is specified in their font mapping is not necessarily the one that is going to be used. On the Windows side, PDF formatters will find kind of an appropriate font for specific glyphs. On the Linux side, if the font is not there, if it's not defined, there is no backup kind of, basically Arial MS Unicode is kind of a catch-all for everything. Then basically, stuff doesn't show up, and we get back to the same theme. It was working on Windows. Why is it working on Linux? So the big one there is be specific in your font mappings. Make sure you have enough default fallback fonts to be able to pick things up. Then within our environment, so keeping development environment with trunk is always kind of an issue because sometimes support needs to go in and add things or fix things, and then the sync doesn't really happen. So once kind of clients or even third-party vendors kind of get used to the environment, they get to know the process of how things work and what steps they should be doing to keep things in check. So the big thing for us internally is how can we be efficient or be able to scale kind of managing all of these different OTs. And for us, it's the big one. It's not one OT or a lot of OTs for one single client. It's a lot of OTs for multiple clients. So any solution that we need to look at needs to be able to apply to 30, 40, 60 different clients, right? And all the different environments that they may have as well. So they'll generally be a test environment, a production environment, then potentially stage or development. So it kind of, snowballs in that respect. So this is kind of where we are at this point. But, there's enough, we're still small enough in terms of the number of clients, things are manageable. But once, keep on getting bigger and bigger, then the efficiency and scalability part kind of comes in. So, any questions? Any questions about like all the different versions of the OTs that people use?
Quite surprising how many people still use 1.8.
Yes. So
based on your chart.
Yeah, and 1.4 as well. Like, and these are like we won't shame anyone in that sort of sense. But the ones that are still using 1.8 and 1.4, these are not small companies either. It's just they got to a point where they no longer have an OT developer of sort on staff to be able to help maintain those, or even like a lot of them want to migrate. If it's the XHTML stuff, not so bad. It's an easier transition to move to a newer version of the OT. PDF 1.8.5 to 2x, that's a big jump, right? To go to 1.8.5 to 3x, that's an even monumental jump, right? So, and that's kind of the scenario. It's keep the lights on, things are working. If it's not broken, hope it doesn't, break. Cool. Any other questions? Oh.
This is one of those typical, not a question but a comment kind of comments. As painful as it is for us, I think, as the toolkit team, to hear that big companies out there are still using 10-year-old versions of the toolkit.
Yeah, 15 for 1.5.
Right. Yeah, that's really painful to hear, because it's like, why are we doing this work?
Yeah.
If people are using the old stuff. But the other way of looking at it is 10 and 15-year-old toolkits still work.
Yep.
Think about that JavaScript framework from last month when it stopped working.
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else? Otherwise, I think we're back on schedule. Thank you.